What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and specifically using that college football revamp as well. We have already seen plenty of surprises already here in year number 4. We've had our fair share of upsets so far in the first few weeks of the season. And we'll see if that continues, as now many teams around the country, well, either they're going to start conference play or there might be a rivalry game or two that deserves their attention as well. So even though there isn't any top 25 matchups in today's episode, I think it's still going to be a good one. Gonna maybe see a couple of teams that maybe we don't get the chance to watch very often here in this series. So I'm really excited for it. I hope you guys are really excited for it as well. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, and hit that subscribe button as well if you happen to be brand new to the channel. And with that being said, let's not waste any more time. We got some great football around the country, and let's go ahead and dive right into that. So we'll actually start this episode off with some Wednesday football, as we have Buffalo, who is 2-0, going on the road to take on this number 4 ranked team in the entire country, that is the Miami Hurricanes. And, you know, give credit to this Buffalo Bulls team. They showed up and they came to play some football, actually keeping it a very tightly contested game, as Buffalo is going to give up a few red zone opportunities in the first half. But what they did was that they've had this bend but don't break mentality to themselves. So while Miami was able to drive down the field in between the 20s, they were not able to finish drives necessarily in that first half. So it was a 9-7 game after one half of play. And then in the second half, you know, we start to see a little bit of discrepancy in terms of talent that is on these depth charts, right? Miami just simply has more talent on its team than what Buffalo has on its squad right now. But Buffalo, like I said, give them credit. They fought extremely hard going on the road down here in sunny Miami, Florida. But the Hurricanes are going to finish the deal eventually, finding Tyrell Smoochie Wallace, one of your guys' custom players, by the way, in the end zone for a touchdown. So Miami does eventually win, but not as convincingly as you would expect. They only win 26-7. But now we get some Thursday games happening on our peripherals. This is a conference matchup here. Notre Dame, the number 11 team in the nation, they did lose to Michigan previously. Well, they're taking on Just Incredible and this Kentucky Wildcat squad. Just Incredible off to a very nice college career, leading his Kentucky Wildcats to a 2-0 start, as his quarterback will go ahead and hand it off to Jay Bowling into the end zone. Touchdown, Kentucky. So the Kentucky Wildcats, they will actually take the early lead as of right now. But like in that first game, it seems like it's going to be a very tightly contested game. Seems like a little bit of a slow start in terms of scoring, but that being said, Notre Dame has a chance to extend the lead. They're going to try to put together a decent little drive here with 2 minutes left here in this first half as they go to the ground game, and there's going to be some decent yards here for Greg Hunt. Actually, excuse me, that is Ben Bentley, who nearly gets to midfield. And hey, get those keys out because they are certainly on a drive. Greg Hunt's going to look over to the right-hand side. He's got his receiver down the sideline, and Justin McBride able to get out of bounds. Going to save some time off the clock. They don't have to go into their no huddle, so able to call one of their better plays, and they're going to find a man streaking over the middle, and that is going to be a touchdown for Ray Robinson, as Greg Hunt puts it right on the money. In this Kentucky Wildcat crowd, well, they are definitely just a little bit stunned here in this one, as Notre Dame will take a 16-7 lead into the half. So if Kentucky wants to come back and win this game, they are going to have to ride Just Incredible, and Just Incredible will deliver. He'll find Brandon Anderson in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Wildcats. They will end up missing the extra point, though, so instead of being just down by a couple of points, they will be down by a full field goal. Hopefully that does not come back to haunt them in these late game moments, but Notre Dame can only respond for a field goal of their own. So a touchdown could tie this thing up. The extra point would give them a lead, which we now know extra points are certainly not guaranteed. So, first and goal for Kentucky. Justin Credible will drop back. He's got some time, and he will find his man in the end zone. Another touchdown for Justin Credible. He gets a second passing touchdown of the day, and that means Kentucky will actually have the lead. They are actually successful with the extra point attempt this time around. So, going down to the final quarter, Kentucky possibly putting Notre Dame on upset alert, but the Fighting Irish should seal the deal, but they decide to pass here? What are we doing? This could haunt them. Greg Hunt, can he stop the score? No, he cannot. He can't make the tackle. An all-time sell by the Notre Dame offense. Greg Hunt tried to pass the ball and throws a pick six. I simply cannot believe it. Notre Dame had this in the bag, and they failed to deliver, so that's going to cost them. They are going to lose in Lexington. Kentucky with a huge upset out of nowhere. So, wow, what a shocker here early on in this episode. We'll now shift over to the northeastern part of the country, though. Pittsburgh going on the road to take on the midshipmen of the Naval Academy out here in Annapolis, Maryland. We'll see if we get some same kind of fireworks that we saw towards the end of last game. But again, it seems like slow starts have been a common theme in these early Thursday games, to be honest with you. But here we are midway through the second quarter, though. Navy has a chance to score, and they will. Mike Allen will score for the midshipmen, but Navy will fail to hit the extra point. Extra point seems to be a big problem with these kickers nowadays, man. I don't know what it is, but I don't think this is going to be a problem for the Pittsburgh Panthers, because we got ourselves a pick six on our hands. Christian Means able to read Spencer Grant like a book, and that means Pittsburgh will have the lead. Speaking of those Pittsburgh Panthers, though, it looks like Pittsburgh has a chance to extend that lead further, throwing a dot to Ken Franz. Ken Franz will able to find the corner in the end zone. Touchdown for the Panthers as they'll look to get to 3-1. Would be a good start here for this Pittsburgh squad, but I'm sure Navy will have something to say about that. Navy's a good football team in their own right. Don't let that be twisted, as Navy is now only down by a touchdown, but they got to get a red zone stop here. Don't know if that's going to happen, though, as Mark Quinn is going to drive a little bit closer for a gain of 5, and this is one of the things that Pittsburgh likes to do. They like to go fast, and that's why they've been such a difficult team to play up against in these first 3 weeks of the season. Not a lot of teams go as fast as Pittsburgh does, and yet here we are. That leads them to a first down because Navy wasn't fully set, and that will eventually lead to another Pittsburgh touchdown. Kyle Williams will throw his second passing touchdown of the night, and his Pittsburgh squad is up 27-13 going into the final quarter. Can they hang on and win this thing? Get to 3-1 here in this young season. The midshipmen trying to put together yet another drive, as we'll go ahead and see Spencer Grant hand it off up the gut to Marquise Woodard. And Marquise Woodard will pick up a gain of 7. And the thing about Navy is that they are transitioning away from that triple option that we usually see Navy run. They are now running a different offense. I believe they're running the Oklahoma State playbook, if I'm not too terribly mistaken, but seems like it's working pretty okay for Navy. They're going to cut it down to just a 7-point game. And yeah, they actually have a shot to tie this thing up here with less than 3 minutes left to play. We'll see what we got going on here. Second and goal now coming up for the midshipmen, going with it's a pass play, max protection, and Jason Anderson still able to get open. We might be looking at overtime, and sure enough, we will indeed have overtime. So, 4 quarters of football was not enough to decide this game, so we'll see what overtime can do. First overtime period gets underway, and Navy will settle for a field goal. So, for Pittsburgh to continue this, they have to hit a field goal of their own, which they will do. So, first overtime, both teams trade field goals, and we now have to go into a second overtime, where we see Pittsburgh have to settle for another field goal. That field goal is up in the air, and that's good. So now Navy just has to score a touchdown. They don't do that, but they can get it to a third overtime if they make this kick, but the kick is short. Just did not get a good boot on this leg at all. You hate to see it. And Pittsburgh is going to win in double overtime, taking down the Navy midshipmen, 33-30 being your final score in this one. So, that being said, we now get to some of the Saturday action here finally. We got Alabama going on the road to take on Southern Florida. This is a matchup that we saw in real life, and it was actually a competitive game in real life. We'll see if this holds up in the video game world, though, as Alabama will be looking to get the first points of this SEC, not a conference matchup, actually. These two teams are in slightly different conferences, but it doesn't change the fact that Alabama, they will strike first. Quinn Lake will find the end zone on the halfback toss play. So Alabama will be up, but they missed the extra point. What is it with these kickers, man? Missing these extra points. I genuinely don't get it, man. I truly don't. USF, they scored a touchdown off screen, so they actually have the lead here. So another game that could turn into a classic, as USF has a chance to extend the lead, but they fumble it on the goal line, bro. Oh, that makes me sick to the soul that they would actually fumble the ball on the goal line. You absolutely hate to see it. So Alabama will take over, and the Crimson Tide are putting together a decent drive here, actually. They drive all the way to about midfield, and we'll cut in with about 2 minutes left to play, and Quinn Lake will get a 20-yard reception there. If they'll eventually get the Crimson Tide into the red zone, where a few plays later, Mark Bouchard's showing off those underrated wheels, actually, and Matt Bouchard will find the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama, and the Crimson Tide will retake the lead, and they even remember to hit the extra point this time. You love to see it. So, midway through the third quarter now, we're going to jump into the second half. Crimson Tide since then did hit a field goal outside of the red zone. So 16-7 will be your score as USF's trying to get work themselves back into the game. And sure enough, Terrence Hall on the halfback screen makes it happen. Touchdown USF. So the Bulls are right back into it, but they need a stop of their own in the red zone. However, Quinn Lake is just an absolute problem. He is not going to be denied. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's been really carrying this Alabama offense today because the passing game really wasn't too terribly effective. But their backup, looks like their fullback gets a little bit of love there, finds the end zone there. But again, Alabama, they did not go for a 2-point conversion. So USF now has a chance to tie. They just got to get this 2-point conversion, and they get it. Robert Sheldon does convert the 2-point conversion. So it's all tied up at 22 apiece. We just have 6 seconds left in this ball game. Bouchard, he's just going to just let it fly. Here's to see what happens, and it's intercepted. It ends up being picked off, so we will have another overtime game. So this is the second overtime game that we're gonna get already. We'll see what overtime ends up bringing to the table, as USF, they'll start with the football here to begin this first overtime, and the Bulls are putting together a good drive, but they did turn the ball over once in the red zone. Can they avoid it a second time? No, they cannot. Alabama is gonna recover it, and it looks like it's the true freshman Nathan McDuffie is going to recover the fumble for Alabama. So now the Crimson Tide, all they have to do is score. They have to literally score anything, and you will now have a chance to win this game. And I'm actually surprised they're not settling for a field goal because they're already inside the 10-yard line. They want to win it in good fashion, and they will with Ernest Concepcion. Finds the end zone. And that's going to be your Johnny Ball game. Alabama wins in overtime, 28-22. So a few more games getting ready to pop back up, including your thumbnail matchup. Cal has been disappointing. They have been an absolute dumpster fire this season. We'll see if they can turn it around, though. They will host number 2 USC, so no guarantees that this would actually happen. USC looking to get back into the college football playoff after nearly missing out last season, as USC will, of course, get the first points of the game. Find tailback Jacob James in the end zone. So USC already up 7-0. And it just seems like early on, USC is going to own this game pretty handily. Unless something absolutely crazy happens here in this ball game. We just not have seen Cal play very well at all. Tackling is a big issue. That man should have been brought down much sooner than what he actually was. Matt Sullivan finds a way to pick up the first down regardless, though. You hate to see just the utter lack of tackling that was displayed there. And it eventually leads to another USC touchdown. Jacob James comes back in, makes it 17-0. But Cal will finally get the goose egg off the scoreboard with 2:30 left to play in the half, as we'll have a connection to Kobe Jones for the end zone. But they will fail to hit the extra point, though. So 17-6 is your score at the half. Cal trying to work back into the game. Still a capacity crowd here up in Berkeley, California. But a lot of fans that are supporting Cal, they're going to come home disappointed, it seems like. USC seems poised to score yet again. It's been that kind of outpouring on the California Bears. As we now have a 1st and goal. Going to run it up the gut. And that will be found in the end zone. Touchdown USC. The Trojans will, of course, win big 48-13 as Cal still struggling to win their first game of the year. Meanwhile, we have the Memphis Tigers at the exact same time. They are taking on the number 6 team in the country in Ole Miss. Now, for Memphis, don't let that record fool you at all, because Memphis is one of those teams where it seems like they're terrible in simulation, but when you get them in a game, man, these kids come to play ball. And that is evident early on, as here we are in the second half. It's still a low-scoring game. Nobody, and I mean literally nobody, has scored a touchdown in this entire game so far until the 6:43 mark. Caden McPherson, one of your guys' customs, well, he'll have the first touchdown of the day, and Memphis will have themselves a little 13-0 lead on the Ole Miss Rebels, giving this Ole Miss squad literally everything that they can handle right now, and maybe then some. Is Ole Miss on upset alerts? We would argue yes. Yes, they indeed are on that upset alert right now, because Memphis has a 5-point lead going into the final quarter. Ole Miss has a chance to take the lead, though, and Lewis Kelly could have the possible game-winning touchdown. Myron Nichols has struggled tremendously in this game, has thrown 3 interceptions, but has a chance to give him a 2-point conversion to give them the lead, or at least even more of a lead, and it fails. So, 2-point conversion is no good. That means Memphis can possibly win here on a field goal. That is certainly going to be in play. Tigers do have to hurry up, though. Less than 2 minutes left in the game. McPherson drops back, looks over the middle, and it's a good running catch by James Everson, who does manage to pick up 17 yards through the air. And a couple more first downs. We might be looking at Memphis being in field goal range. We'll see how the Tigers want to play this. McPherson avoids a sack and throws a huge ball to John Bain. Oh my, Caden McPherson, I was unfamiliar with your game, young man. I didn't realize you had that dog in you. And it looks like the nation is finding out in real time that, hey, this Memphis team can play some really good football. They could play some spoiler in the Sun Belt, but Ole Miss has a chance to time. Might be a little bit too much time left on that scoreboard. 19 seconds left. You got to push it into the end zone. No. Nichols looks over the left-hand side, and it's going to be intercepted. Memphis will hold down on the goal line, and Memphis upsets the number 6 team in America. Absolutely unbelievable. Meanwhile, you have the number 15 team in the country in the LSU Tigers. Well, they are hosting a fellow Louisiana team, actually, in Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech is led by their freshman quarterback, Brandon Jager, who is one of your custom guys, but really not much happening in this game, to be honest with you. A lot of scores happen outside the red zone, so LSU does win pretty convincingly. 51-14 ends up being your score there. But we get a few other games that have a little bit more competition in them, a little bit more highlights. Not really a lot of highlights in that LSU game, right? But now we check in on Georgia. Georgia, number 9 in the country right now. They are taking on UCF. UCF still looking for their very first win of the season. Knights are hanging through, though. They're hanging tough in the bounce house. But the bounce house, it might not be bouncing too terribly much here, though, as Georgia will take a 13-3 lead. And then later on in the second quarter, Lyles sets up the play action and throws a dime. And I mean an absolute dime to, looks like Robert Neely. Robert Neely will give Georgia a 20-3 lead. But 1:13 left to go. UCF will have a red zone opportunity. And they will certainly make the most of it. They'll cut it down to just 10 points here at the half. So UCF still in the game. They just need a strong third quarter, but that third quarter just doesn't happen. It really does not happen at all, as Tim Green will score for Georgia. So now it's a 20-point lead, biggest lead of the day for the Georgia Bulldogs. And now we could be looking at, if Georgia scores here yet again, could we be seeing some backups come in here late in this fourth quarter, get some valuable game time reps? We might be seeing that here pretty soon, especially with Frederick Muller. He comes back into the game. He was actually hurt, so that's why you briefly saw Thomas Miles. But third and goal, thought you would think that they would, possibly, it looked like they were in like a victory formation, but they actually choose to run it. Georgia does win convincingly, though, 37-10, as the Bulldogs do remain undefeated. Meanwhile, we have UCLA, the number 8 team in the country. Well, they are also on the road as well, taking on the Oregon Ducks that have your offensive coordinator, Remy Natalius. He's coming from Wyoming, so a little bit of a bigger stage than what Cheyenne, Wyoming could possibly provide. We'll see how he handles the big stage here with this number 8 team in the nation in the building, as Oregon will run it up the gut. And that's a good run there for Matt Rhodes there. Sets up second and short. We'll see if they can go ahead and finish the drive off. And it looks like no! Matt Rhodes actually be denied from the end zone. They will still pick up that first down regardless, though. But they have 3 chances to get like 2 yards. And sure enough, they will indeed get the 2 yards that they're looking for, as Chad McKenzie gives Oregon the lead here in this second quarter. However, UCLA is looking to retake the lead, though, as Brandon Hollis will check it down to his tight end, who's going to rumble and stumble his way to about that 20-yard line. So now, goal line situation for UCLA there. But a couple penalties brought him back quite a bit. And we will have some big sacks here, as, hang on now, Oregon might return this pretty decently far. He gets back up, though. And Ryan Rucker, the freshman takes it all the way to the 40-yard line. Unfortunately, Oregon doesn't do anything with it. But, hey, you'll love to see them go out and compete. So, UCLA, consider yourselves officially on that upset alert right now. So, UCLA, here in the fourth quarter, down by 7. Brandon Hollis needs a good throw, and sure enough, he gets that good throw that he's looking for, as that only almost ends up in a touchdown. Nicholas McMahon nearly gets his first touchdown of the day, but Hollis will look somewhere else. He'll find Kobe Green for the end zone score, and UCLA will officially be tied up with those Oregon Ducks. This game is coming down to really the final stretch here, as this could be in for a photo finish potentially, but UCLA will take the lead with 4 minutes left to play in the ball game. And unfortunately, Oregon, they just seem to run out of gas here. Oregon really doing their best to keep up. They got to get some reinforcements in the trenches. That's really what's holding Oregon back, because Oregon does have some good skill position players, but in the trenches, that is definitely a weak spot of this team, and that became apparent towards the end, as Walter McAfee, one of the FCS transfers, he'll find the end zone late. Now secure a slight victory for the UCLA Bruins. That being said, for the first time this year, we'll be able to check in on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State coming in ranked number 5 in the season. This is the first time that we will actually see them on national TV, though. At least over the course of this year. I believe it's because Ohio State played like an FCS opponent or something. I'm not too terribly sure. But that being said, Ohio State up 20-3 on Central Michigan. Chippewas trying to play some ball, but we got an unforced error. Brooks Hicks, what are you doing? What are you doing, my guy? I am genuinely confused. And it's why Ohio State has only scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. Just not that Ohio State does not have the talent, but this offense is just sloppy, man. It's just been a sloppy day for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Their backup does come into the game. This is Zach Mills. He does a little bit better job running this offense. It'll get Mark Baker into the end zone, so Ohio State will score there. But let's see if Ohio State can finish strong, though, with 3 minutes left to play, as Zach Mills will drop back the pass, throw it over to the left-hand side. That will be a nice little completion there for the first down. That is to C.J. Anderson, as it seems like Ohio State will start to run some of this clock down, but going to get a little bit of style points in here as well, as Jonathan Sherman will find the end zone. Touchdown, Ohio State. So the Buckeyes will win a blowout 34-3. as they'll look to get back into the playoff. That being said, we do have some studio updates around the country, as a little bit of a shocker here. UTSA taking down a ranked Oklahoma squad. UTSA wins 49-42 in an absolute shootout. This is a huge shocker, and Oklahoma might fall out of the top 25 because of this. That certainly could be in the cards. Meanwhile, San Diego State, they took on Nevada today, and the Aztecs win 31-24. It helps them prove that, yes, they are indeed a top 25 caliber program here in year number 4 as well. So you love to see all of those things. And we have a bunch of games happening around the same time. How about Texas trying to remain in the top 25? They're going to take on Tulsa, but we'll check in on that later. For now, we're going to check in on Penn State. Unranked Penn State going on the road, taking on Arizona. And the Nittany Lions trying to prove that they should be ranked in this top 25 as well. Even if you're not ranked, that doesn't mean that you're not a quality football team. And Penn State certainly fits the description here. 3-0 start. You love to see that, as the Nittany Lions trying to get to 4-0 and, getting some quick scores here. We're only halfway through this first quarter, and Penn State already has a 14-0 lead. This has been a strong start here for the Nittany Lions. Matter of fact, they force another turnover, and that's how they're quickly able to get these red zone opportunities put together, and Arizona never stood a chance. Penn State wins convincingly 36-10, but then Tennessee, number 21 Tennessee, on the road, taking on Georgia Tech. Remember Georgia Tech when they had that big win to start the season against Florida? Well, Georgia Tech has dropped the ball since then. That's why they're no longer ranked in the top 25. They lost to teams like Ohio. Yes, they lost to Ohio literally the week after Florida. So Yellow Jackets have been a little bit of a dumpster fire since then. But you got another ranked opponent. They're here on national television. Maybe they can use this as a chance to get right back on track. And it's a tied game here early on, but Tennessee will take the lead here midway through the second quarter of action. And Tennessee will take that 14-7 lead into the half. However, Georgia Tech, they do get the ball to start this second half. And in the second half, Georgia Tech is going to work all the way down the field and will have themselves a goal line opportunity. And in that goal line opportunity, nothing like a little bit of read option. Ahmad Morse runs it to perfection. So we have a tie ball game here yet again. 14-all being your score, as Sam Graves will eventually go ahead and retake the lead for Tennessee. So a back and forth game between these two squads. It could be yet another photo finish. Georgia Tech, however, is going to take the lead with less than 4 minutes left to play in the ball game. Georgia Tech, we're going to pull off another upset here on national television. Are we going to get that? That would be something. But Tennessee looking to make sure that they remain in this top 25, as Michael Austin actually nearly scores. He nearly finds the end zone there, and it only takes a couple more plays. Tim Landrum, read option, undefeated. You can't beat it. Tennessee scores there. They're also going to go for a 2-point conversion. That way, they can't lose off of an extra point, and they'll get the extra point, and they'll get the 2-point conversion. So, Georgia Tech got to get down the length of the field. We'll see what they can do. Ahmad Morse going to drop back, looks over the middle. He's got a receiver. Hang on now. He's going to break away from this down the sideline, and Georgia Tech's going to score. Joe Heron with a 79-yard strike with less than 90 seconds left to play. Will it be enough time for Tennessee? I have no idea. But Georgia Tech is going to tie this game up at 35. And baby, we're going to go into overtime. We got some overtime action here down in Atlanta. We certainly got a hot one going right now. Georgia Tech gets a field goal in its first overtime. So for Tennessee to continue, they just have to hit a field goal of their own. And oh no. Oh no. That is a disaster of a kick. So Tennessee loses, and Georgia Tech, they're going to pull this upset off. I simply cannot believe what I am seeing. So, that being said, we got a big upset on our hands there. And now we go over to, this Great Plains here in the United States, as Wisconsin goes on the road to take on Iowa State. Wisconsin, number one of those candidates of possibly being an underrated squad. Feel like they should be ranked in the top 25, but have not received that kind of respect just yet. How about Christian Bell, though? Christian Bell, one of your guys' custom recruits for Iowa State. Going to throw a passing touchdown, so that's a pretty cool thing to see there. But Wisconsin is a dominant football team. There is no two ways about it. Wisconsin, them boys can play up there in Madison, Wisconsin. There's no doubting that, as it seems like Wisconsin has arguably one of their better teams in this NCSL series that they have been able to indeed put together. So a 14-7 game here for the Wisconsin Badgers as they're looking to add some more points onto the scoreboard. Joe Bullock will punch it in for the touchdown, and Wisconsin will end up winning this game 49-21. Wisconsin making a strong case to be ranked in that top 25. However, we head down to the state of Texas, and it's a different story down here in Texas. Neither of his teams have won a single game up to this point, and we're covering it because it is technically a rivalry game. Some Texas State supremacy, or at least avoiding being in the toilet bowl in the state of Texas. Nobody wants to be considered the worst college football team in the state of Texas, where down here in the Lone Star State, college football is definitely king. There's no doubt about that. Almost treated like religion. So you could see why people will be pissed that their college football team lost down here in the state of Texas. Texas A&M and Texas Tech are playing a close game, though. It's definitely a close game between these two teams late in the third quarter. It looks like as if the Aggies are starting to pull away here a little bit. Texas A&M will make it 14-3 your score. So a little bit of a defensive-minded game. But the Red Raiders certainly not planning on giving up anytime soon. Lubbock trying to rally behind their football team as the Raiders have a chance to pull to within just a field goal. They just need to get the 2-point conversion, which they will ultimately fail at getting. So, 2-point conversion is no good. Raiders will need a touchdown, and then on the other end, well, they got to get a stop. Stop's not going to happen. So, Sean Lewis, you guys know him as the former head coach at Kent State. He's actually now at San Diego State in real life. Well, he gets his 25th career win, wins 21-9 with the Aggies. Now we check in on those Texas Longhorns as Texas comes in and takes on the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa up here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But the Texas Longhorns get off to a slower start here yet again. This has been a different season than what we have anticipated. Texas has been really dominant in the last couple of years. So to see them lose a couple of games already is a little bit of an interesting sight to see. We'll see if they can pull it together here now that they are officially in conference play. And oddly enough, this is a conference matchup. I'm pretty sure we saw these two teams play in a conference championship. Might have been as recently as, might have been year number 2. This was a conference championship matchup. Can't quite remember if that's truly the case or not, but Tulsa's trying to slowly work their way back into this game. It would help if they can actually get some touchdowns. Those touchdowns never come for Tulsa, though. The touchdowns do, however, come for the Texas Longhorns, as, man, I thought Blake Cohen found the end zone there, but they're going to mark him just short at like the 1-inch line. Thankfully, Blake Cohen gets another crack at it, and he won't miss this time around. Texas will score, and the Texas Longhorns will win 29-13, so that they can get back to 500 here on this young season. So, some more studio updates on the way, and some surprises happening around the country. Stanford is going to beat Washington State 35-21, so the Cardinal will be able to win their second game of the season. However, that's not the only studio update that we have. Raging Cajuns able to pull it out against Mississippi State 34-27, so the Raging Cajuns win their second game of the year. And then Oregon State is going to provide Colorado's very first loss of the entire season. Colorado will drop to 2-1, while the Oregon State Beavers, well, they are no longer going to be considered winless. So you absolutely love to see it. And now let's go ahead and jump into last game that we have for tonight in terms of actual gameplay. Maryland going on the road and taking on West Virginia. We'll see if the Mountain Mama can help out these West Virginia Mountaineer squad, as you had a red zone opportunity to start things out, but not what you were probably thinking. Maryland is going to get an interception in the end zone, and Maryland might be able to capitalize here. Maryland going to be able to go ahead, throw over to the right-hand side, and Kobe Turner is going to find the end zone. Touchdown, Terrapins. So Maryland will have a 14-0 lead after all. So West Virginia, a team that is undefeated and trying to prove that, hey, another team trying to prove they belong in this top 25, might be in some trouble here. Might be in some serious trouble in this rivalry game of theirs. A little bit of backyard brawl action, feels like. So Maryland up by 8. Next 2 minutes is going to be key for both teams here. Could be a momentum defining 2 minutes. And West Virginia pounces. Do they get all the way into the end zone? No. It's going to be stopped, pushed out the 1-yard line. Jared Burnett could give West Virginia back into this game single-handedly. The offense has to deliver, and they will. Touchdown, Mountaineers. And the Mountaineers are a 2-point conversion away from tying this game up. And sure enough, they're going to go for it. 2-point conversion underway. Steffens drops back, looks to the right inside, and Kevin Miller does get the ball across the plane. And we got a tie ball game on our hands. 14-all going to be your score. Is this too much time for Maryland? No, Maryland's got a pretty solid offense of their own. They got some good custom player talent in Jackson Durant, who we just saw make that particular catch, as Maryland will also go ahead and run the halfback screen, as, yeah, that's going to be a 1st and goal situation. Nate Anderson makes it a goal line set for 2nd and goal. Maryland punches it in from 2 yards out, and the Terrapins will take a lead into the halftime locker room. Could be a classic in this rivalry game, though. Could be some excitement. Midway through the 3rd quarter, still your same score, but West Virginia does get a red zone opportunity, and the red zone opportunity will be capitalized on as Taylor Steffens gets his 2nd passing touchdown of the night. And they're going to need all the points they can get, because, oh baby, is it high scoring right now. 28-all, and we still have another quarter of ball left to play. We'll see if they can punch it in here, as they're going to run a toss out to the right-hand side, and it's going to be punched in. Touchdown, West Virginia, and the Mountaineers will take the lead. Can they hold on, though? Maryland trying to answer back. They do. Maryland scores right back, and it just might come down to who is going to have this football last. West Virginia throws over the middle of the field, and that will be a 9-yard gain for Dan Bishop. as they will try to answer the call yet again. Can West Virginia put up yet another touchdown on the board? And they will, with the backup tailback Gary Wheeler, and that last touchdown was the ultimate difference maker, as West Virginia will remain undefeated, escaping the Maryland Terrapins' weight. Now, speaking of all these shootouts that we have been seeing around the country, let's go ahead and take a look around college football. Take a look at some other box scores that might have possibly happened, right? So, how about Northern Illinois continuing their strong start to the year? They get to 3-0 now. They beat Eastern Carolina 52-21 and are still undefeated on the season. As for the Seminoles of Florida State, they continue to roll here in year number 4 as the Seminoles win big 45-3 as Dalton Barentine and that coaching staff, well, they were no match for his Seminole squad. Meanwhile, the Horned Frogs of TCU play in just their second game of the season, and TCU continues their winning ways. They're 2-0 to start the year, beating UTEP, and now this Horned Frogs team is inside the top 20, a good accomplishment for TCU. Keeping it in the state of Texas, though, the Rice Owls went on the road to take on North Texas, and the Rice Owls were flying way too high. The Rice Owls win 41-17, and the Rice Owls continue to be undefeated, could be a possible threat in that Big 12 conference. That being said, the Razorbacks of Arkansas are finally getting some respect on their name, climbing into the top 20 themselves. They get a 41-24 victory over Arkansas State, the in-state rival, and the Razorbacks start the year 4-0, all in Sun Belt Conference games. Speaking of teams that are looking for some respect, the Colorado State Rams are looking for that, as Colorado State, ever since losing big to North Carolina in the opener, they are now on a 3-game winning streak. They blow out UNLV 49-19 as the Rebels suffer their first loss of the season. Minnesota, meanwhile, could be in an American Conference Championship threat as they continue their winning ways as well. Minnesota continues their high-flying offense as they beat Bowling Green convincingly 40-21. The Falcons lose their first game of the season. As for North Carolina, the Tar Heels are still undefeated here in this early part of year number 4 as they beat up on Mid-Tennessee State 42-14. The Tar Heels are still undefeated here in these first 4 weeks of the season. Speaking of teams that are undefeated in the ACC, Clemson is another one of those squads, still only ranked number 23 in the country, but they continue to handle their own business. Clemson wins 48-23 as Louisville drops their second game. But boys, we had ourselves a shootout like no other. I think this is the first time that we've seen a game approach 100 points total. Kent State scores 30 in this game, and they still get blown out by Utah. The Utes win 63-30, 4-0, but still not ranked in that top 25. One team that is not having that problem, however, is Florida. The Gators hosting Coastal Carolina, and Chanticleers are a solid team, but fall short against the Gators. Florida wins 38-22 in order to get back to 500. So we'll now take some time to look around the country to see what kind of changes that we have in these top 25 polls. And to be honest with you, in the first 9 spots, there really isn't much change to report, right? Pretty much business as usual. We do have a couple of changes after number 9, though. We got Nebraska, who is on bye. They move up a couple of spots regardless, as does the Rice Owls. Rice, I think, is certainly a better team than what their overall talent on paper would actually suggest. Minnesota, however, could be a challenger against Nebraska. They're up 2 spots as well. LSU has bounced back from their week 1 loss, and they're up to number 13 in the country. As for Hawaii, going to the second half of this top 25, the Rainbow Warriors on bye, but getting more respect than last week. They move up 3 spots. Ole Miss, we saw that upset against Memphis, and Ole Miss is going to fall all the way to number 15. They will go on the road to take on Alabama in the next episode. That could be a big-time matchup. North Carolina moves up a couple of spots. Florida up 2. TCU up a couple of spots. You know, these are teams that we saw play. Kentucky beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame has still not won a single game yet this season, but despite that, Notre Dame is still ranked number 20 in the country. And then rounding out your top 25, you got Texas at 21, San Diego State at 22, Clemson up a couple of spots, and then you have 2 new teams coming in, Auburn, who was on bye, and then Alabama, winning their second game of the season, having to do so in an overtime game against Southern Florida. So it looks like that will wrap up our week number 4 action for right now. We certainly have our surprises and disappointments. Let me know down in the comment section what has surprised you and what has disappointed you the most here in week number 4 of the NCSL season. We certainly had our fair share, but we get deeper into regular season action in the next episode, week number 5 coming right up, and I'm hoping you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead and smack that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.